All right, my friends, welcome back to the God Hoodlum podcast. I'm your host, of course, Tyler Martin, comic book writer, creator, publisher, and founder and CEO of Godhood Comics. Today is a very special episode. It's the episode you guys have all been waiting for. When we do our Godhood Comics Schoolhouse Masterclass initiative, the main thing that people want to know is how to write your comic book script and how to format a comic book script. And so in this video, we're going to show you how you do that. It's very, very, very easy to a certain point. I think a lot of creators, new creators especially, kind of overthink the basics of it. So we're going to go through the basics of a comic book script, the formatting of a comic book script, and just everything you'll need to know as a beginner. And if you want to start writing your own script. Now, we always say, don't let any creative flaws stop you from creating, right? So we always talk about outsourcing. If you can't write a comic book script, there's plenty of people who you can hire that'll write the comic book script for you. Let's not just get hung up on you not being able to write a comic book script, because there are people out there that can write that bad boy for you if you're not comfortable with doing it. The first thing we're going to look at is how actually, what is an actual comic book script and how it differs from a screenplay or a novel or a playwright, right? All right, let's get into it, friends. Also, listen, stop what you're doing right now. If you haven't already, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and more importantly, go ahead on over to the Patreon. Subscribe to the Patreon. We cannot ask you this enough. In fact, we'll ask you this every video until we hit our goal of 2,000 a month from all of our supporters and backers. It just keeps the lights on. If we have a bad month in sales or a bad week in sales, or just things aren't hitting for us financially, it keeps us going. It keeps the content coming and puts us in a position where we can still create everything that you want to see. We're not Marvel, we're not DC. We don't have millions of dollars in the bank, okay? So we definitely need your support to keep going. Otherwise, it's curtains. All right, so let's take a look at this. It says Comic Book Scripting 101. We use this in all our master classes. So some of you have probably seen it before, but it still stands. I need to update that logo, though, I think. That's the old logo. So, a good comic book. A comic book is typically composed of a number of elements which all work together to tell a story. Listen to what that says. A comic book is typically composed of a number of elements which all work together to tell a story. Guys, remember, first of all, let's go back to this. Let's take it a step back. Why are you making a comic book? Why is this not a novel? Why is this not a poem? Why is this not a children's book? Why is this not a playwright? Why is this not a screenplay? You have to understand why it is you want to make it a comic book. And script and art go hand in hand to make an amazing comic book. They're both equally important. A lot of the times you'll see people focus more on art and not enough script. Or you'll see the other way. They'll focus more on the script and don't really care about the art. And you get this unequal yoke. And then the experience in the entire book is just thrown off for your readers. And that's not what you want. All right. So there's four major components. Now there's more. Comic book scripting can get super complex, but there are four major components of a comic book page. All right. That is your panel, your caption, your speech bubble, and your splash. Again, there are more things that make up a comic book page, but we'll get into that as we do a full writing so you can kind of see this stuff into play, okay? So what is your panel? A panel is one illustration on a page, usually surrounded by a border. A comic book page is made up of one or more panels. Each panel moves the story along by depicting an action with figures and speech bubbles, right? So your panel is your I always like to put it like this. If you had a Polaroid camera and you are in the park and you seeing a guy fly a kite and you're taking a picture of every motion, every action. At the end of it, you have 20 Polaroid pictures. Now you have to put those in order by action. It's your scrapbook. That's what your panel is. Your caption, a box that is separate from the rest of the panel, usually used to provide context for what's happening through the voice of a narrator. Captions is what, when, where, and why. It can be a character talking, being the narrator, or you being the narrator, or just a regular narrator who has no part in the story other than to tell it. All right. Your caption just lets you know what's going on. Number 3 is your speech bubble. These are what we have come to love about comics. We all know them, whether you're a comic book reader, comic book creator, no matter what you are, you know what a speech bubble is. These contain the dialogue of the characters inside the panel. Each balloon has a tail, which points to who is speaking the dialogue. Very simple. We all know what a speech bubble is. If you don't, I feel sorry for you. No, I'm just kidding. Now you know. All right. So number 4, splash. A full page illustration, which often is used at the beginning of a comic book to introduce the story and establishing setting and mood. Now, you can put a splash page anywhere as long as it flows with the story, and we'll talk about that a little later. But for me, I use splash page to just kind of set a variety of different things, like visually, right? You can really use this space. It's just a bigger panel where you can use that space to kind of go more deeper into your story, and you see certain characters, and you can look at what's on the wall and just more detail. A splash page is super detailed. All right, guys. Now, this is one of my favorite things to do. I literally write comic book scripts every day, and I can write them in my sleep. There's been chances where I'm so focused on the business that I cannot focus on the creator aspect, and I will go weeks and maybe months without writing, and I fall into like a serious depression. It's just not happy for me at all. I get so happy if I'm not able to write a script. Now, notice the first thing you need to notice is I'm just using Word document. Do not overthink this. Free forever. Do not spend hundreds of dollars on Final Draft or Pro or whatever the case may be. If you're a screenwriter, then you know you can use those type of things. I use those type of things when I'm getting into screenwriting. But for a comic book script, just don't pay for anything, guys, especially not starting off. I'm in this game 10 years, and I'm not paying for something to write a comic book with. So don't do it. You do not need it. I'm all about simplicity. Okay, so the beautiful thing about a comic book script is, like a fingerprint, a human fingerprint, or a tiger stripe, or a zebra stripe, no two are the same. Now, there is a format. But as you go along and you get comfortable in your writing, you will add your own style and your own flair. It's kind of like driving a car, right? Me and you drive cars completely different. Now, there's a format. We stop at the stop sign. We stop at a red light. We go at a green light. We got to put our signal light on, but we do it differently. I may drive faster than you. You may drive slower than me. I may always use my blinker. You may not use yours as much. I may be a horn beeper. You may not be a horn beeper, but the basics and standard is still the same. We still have to follow certain rules on the road. So the same too for a comic script and formatting your comic script. Now, this is something I'm doing on a whim. If you've been in our master classes, you know we do this all the time. This is not a scam. This is something that I'm thinking about right now. And if you want to request a live, we'll do the same thing, where I'll just come up with an idea just to kind of showcase how you're scripting your comic book format. And we'll also do a video on outlining, which is completely different. Now, before you get into comic book scripting, you should already have your outline. I'm going to act like we already have our outline here, okay? So we're just going to do strictly script. Okay, so let's get into that. Super fun. All right, so the first thing you want to do is make a title. All right, and you should already know your title. I'm going to make something up. I'm going to call this comic book The Hill Within. Just right off the top of my head. The Hill Within. I have no idea what this book's about, but we're about to figure it out. I always like to put my synopsis right here. Just kind of keeps me focused. And if I'm sharing a script with an editor, which we'll talk about, you need an editor. Editors are very important. They kind of know what the book is about. So The Hill Within. I'll say The Hill Within is about this. All right, do not judge me on spelling. My mind goes so fast when I'm writing a comic book script that I just go, go, go. And I forgot who told me this, man. If you please forgive me because I quote this all the time and I always use your name, but he told me, he said, you write like you are drunk and you edit like you are sober. When you're getting those ideas, guys, don't worry about spelling words. Don't worry about dialogue. Just don't worry about all that stuff. That's why you have an editor, and you'll come back into it and you'll have 6 different drafts of your script. And even when you get your art back, the best part about a script is when I get my art back and I can change dialogue based on the new things that the author has done. So your first script is never going to be your final. It should never be your final in any literary medium, but especially when you're making a comic book, your first script, your 6th script will not be your final. You won't get your final script done until you have sent your pages, your colored pages off to the letterer. All right. So The Hill Within is about a man. It says synopsis: a man moves back into his childhood home after college, but soon realizes things are different. As a string of mysterious murders begin to happen, he must come to the realization that his parents might be serial killers. Off the top of my head, that's the genius of Tyler Martin. No, seriously, this is what I can do. One thing I can do is make a comic book. All right, so we got that. We got our synopsis and we got our title. I always think a title is super important, so I like to blow my titles up. We'll make that a 24-footer. Add some, got to be creative. We'll add, boom, The Hill Within. No, we could do better than that, I think. We can do better than that, I think. In the world of Winifred Sanderson. Perfect. Let's make it a little bigger because we want that baby up. All right. The Hill Within. All right. So we're going to go back over here. And this is our first page. I am super OCD, so I like to lay everything out unquestionable. I always go with Courier. And then remember, your job as a writer is to figure out a way to make this comic book as easy and as easy as a decipher as you possibly can for your artist. Your artist has to open this comic book and easily decipher it. Now, again, there are different people who write different things. I'm going to show you how very simplistic my writing is because I always believe in creative control for your artist, and I think your artist always has to have some creative freedom. So I like for my artists to take what I'm saying and add new value to it if they so choose, and then obviously I can veto it or go along with it. I have the final say. You have the final say as the comic book creator. Okay, so I'm super simplistic. I always do page 1 and I put it in red. Oops, sorry. Put it in red so my artists know we're on page 1. I know other guys who just simple to in order to differentiate the page, they just go all the way down. They'll maybe space it like 20 times. I don't like that. I just use red. All right. We talked about panel 1. Sorry. Panel 1. Now, this is our first Polaroid. What do we see? And this is what I see for our first Polaroid. That's our first panel. As you're writing your script, you should already be able to see this stuff in your head. We can already see at the crack of dawn, a city bus in a small town screeches to a screeches to a halt at a bus stop. Now, here's what we talked about earlier. With our caption. Now, captions are not always in every comic book. If you don't want, I'm all for showing and not telling. Like, I rarely use captions. I really want to get into using captions more often, but I rarely use them just because I rather show and not tell. But I love captions. Do not get me wrong. I love captions. All right. So I'm going to add a caption here just to kind of give some background at what's going on. Okay. And let's say we're going to give a scene of where this takes place. All right. And I'll say, let's make up a town in Idaho. Let's say this is Fieldview, Idaho, which I'm sure is a real place somewhere. We'll say 2 weeks ago. Meaning this is a flashback, right? Or it could be this is a flashback, or this is where we start our story, but as we progress, we'll see that someone's actually telling the story at the end of it or in the middle, you know. So this is Fieldview, Idaho, 2 weeks ago. All right. Now let's go to our second Polaroid. Very simple. I am so simplistic when I use comic book, when I'm writing a comic book script. Again, I like to let my artist go in there and do his thing. I know creators who, panel one, they have full on paragraphs, which is also good. The way we have about 8 artists on our roster, and we have a great working relationship. They know what I mean. They know how to add value, but I'll actually show you how a lot of people would portray this. All right. So let's make this even more so, because you may be one of those creators who you want to put more detail into your panels. So the bus door cracks open as our main character steps off. That's one action. So we can't add another action to that because that will be panel 3. So we have to add details to this one action. Now, typically, before you write your script, you should already have your character designs done, and your artist should already have those character designs. So when you say main character, they already know who that character is. They've already designed it. They've seen designs from another artist. They're good to go. They're just, from here on out, they're just placing what you've got in that, on the character design into scenes, all right? So, but if we didn't already have that, you should have your characters designed and drawn and rendered way before you have a script. So, if we don't have that, then we can kind of add this. He wears an orange college letterman jacket. He's a black male in his early, let's say in his mid-20s, with a fresh fade and beard. He rocks blue jeans and red Chuck Taylors. All right. So that's just a little something to go in a little bit of detail, blah, blah, blah. You can go on as much. Now, you cannot add another action. Let's go back to panel 2. If I'm saying he's stepping off the bus, that's it. This is a picture of him stepping off the bus. You can't say in a panel that he's stepping off the bus and he's stepping off the bus and he places one foot on the ground, right? Or he steps off the bus, then he turns around and says bye to the bus driver. That's 2 separate actions. That's 2 separate panel. one panel per one action. That snapshot Polaroid. All right, so keep that in mind. Let's go to panel 3. Oh, God, I messed up, guys. This is how I do my scripts. I don't know why I was doing it the old way. I just put a bulletin right there after every panel. I can't believe I was doing it like that. That's what I was doing a long time ago, and a lot of people still do it. Again, you write your script to what you're most comfortable with, but me and my artists are just so used to panel 1 and then a bulletin. All right, so sorry. All right, so panel 3. Panel 3. Now on the ground, he watches as the bus pulls off. Now, I'm deciding that I'm going to have the main character tell the story. So this is when I put his voice in. Remember, your caption is your what, where, when, how, why, and your who. All right. So this main character, I'm going to be speaking from his POV for this comic book. All right. So I'm going to say, I never really liked home. Panel 4. So as the bus completely moves, it reveals the small city. We see from behind our main character as he stares at the place of his birth, unimpressed. So now we're behind the main character. We see this nice view of his hometown, a small city. I'll send references I'll go on Google and grab a small city, and then I'll send that to my artist. But he has the say so he can create the city how he wants to see it, as long as it's small. And let's go ahead and give some more detail here, and we'll say the city is clearly old, old with limited funding. Think dairy from it. So I gave a little sample. So he's going to look up dairy on it, and he's going to just kind of see that kind of rundown, dilapidated, small town where everybody kind of knows each other. All right, so we got 4 panels here, and now we're going to go into our next caption. Every panel, every caption should be further pulling your reader into the story. Because now we want to know, who is this guy? Why are we here? Why doesn't he like being at home? He says, I never really liked home. All right, so I'm going to say here, All right, it says maybe because it never really felt like a home. Or maybe because when I was here, I never really felt like me. Guys, I'm a master at dialogue. I love dialogue. Dialogue can make or break a story. If you are a fan of dialogue, look up writers like Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese. There's a few others, but I love dialogue. I'm super obsessed with dialogue. Even Stephen King has amazing dialogue. Dialogue is that a part of what I said earlier is that show and not that tell. And you can really sell a story to anybody with good dialogue because dialogue is going to make a character way more relatable because we all have these thoughts and opinions. So make sure your dialogue is on point. All right. Now, a question that we get a lot is how many panels per page. Now, industry standard, never more than 7 panels per page, I say. You don't want to get overcrowded and you want your art to really sink in and get your readers involved. But we've seen comic books where there are 20 page panels, and if the story calls for it, that's a rarity. I've seen Marvel do it with Daredevil and certain other issues or other comic books, but that's because the story called for. There's so much going on. You may see somebody bouncing around, and the panels are consecutive, but you never want more than 7 panels. I don't like to do more than 5. I may do 6, but I never do more than 5, rarely. I just think, again, art is super big for us at Guided Comics. So quality of art, I really want that detail. I want that experience. And I want my panels to be livable and visible. So I only do 5 panels, but you can do as many panels as you think is necessary. But I always say never do more than 7 unless the story calls for it. And rarely will it call for that. So be very careful. All right, panel 5. Now, I don't have to put detail because me and my artist know each other. I trust him. He knows what I want. So back early on, if you want to, if you're working with a new artist and you want to go, you're going to want to go back and for this panel 4, when we see the town, you may want to add that there's tons of pedestrians everywhere, right? Going about their daily lives. So your artist knows he has to draw more characters here. My artists know I love detail. Do not send me a page without detail, even if it's not in the script. So if we're in a small town, it's probably pretty condensed. I want to see people. They know that. I don't have to put that. But you, as a new established creator, you should put it. And I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to put that. All right. So panel 5. To that next caption. In one page, we've established who, what, and why. So here's why he's coming. Let's read the captions consecutively. All right, caption: Fairview, Idaho, 2 weeks ago. I never really liked home. Maybe because it never really felt like a home. Or maybe because when I was here, I never really felt like me. And yet here I am, back in Fieldview, because in this collapsing economy, here is the only job I can find. He's back for work, guys. Miraculously, he's back for work. All right? Then you would go into page 2. You know how I do things? Boom. Go back to black. Y'all know me now. Panel 1. And you start it all over again, guys. Now, go ahead, if you haven't already, we have this more in detail and full on our master class. Go to our website and look at our master class with David Crownson, writer and creator of Harry Tubman Demon Slayer, and we take you through the entire aspect of creating your first comic book, including that PDF we showed earlier in its entirety. We're going to stop right here because all I wanted to do was just show the gist of how the format of your comic book script should be, which is your title, your synopsis, page, panel, caption, panel. If you're using captions, panel 4, panel 5, we're done. Page 2, we do the thing all over again, still telling the story. And then obviously I was going to take him, not obviously, but I was going to take him to the local store to pick up some groceries to take home. They would know his name. They know who he is. And then when you talk about the string of murders that was happening, we kind of give some exposition on that. This is the funnest form of literature for me. I can write a script in a day, just straight off the top of my head, and then kind of go back and then make it better. But yeah, guys, I hope that really helped. And I'm going to save this because it's actually pretty darn good. And if you want this script, have at it, finish it, make it a comic book. But yeah, man. So that's how you're going to write and set up your script 101. I hope you enjoyed this video. We're going to do more of these. So just make sure you're subscribing and liking our videos, guys, and commenting on the videos. But also, more importantly, that you're utilizing this. We're doing this stuff for you. I always say I want people making more comic books. We need people creating more comic books. So that's going to be all for this video. Stay tuned. We're going to have 2 more videos this week before Sunday. I'm going to get those bad boys out. Subscribe to the Patreon. We need your help. I can't do this alone. I can't do it without you. This has been the God Hoodlum Podcast. And what do you think? How do you write your comic book script? Please comment below. Let me know. There may be things I don't know that you do. So tell me. All right? Tyler out.